What up, people? This is my first episode of Book Summary. In this episode, I will be covering the first installment of the critically acclaimed series from writer Robert Kirkman and artist Tony Moore, The Walking Dead. The graphic novel starts with the protagonist, Officer Rick Grimes, getting shot by an escaped criminal and him waking up in the hospital after an unspecified time to find the world infested with the hordes of walkers. Rick rides home on a bicycle, to find that his wife and son are both not there, and when he goes outside, receives a shovel to the back of the head. When Rick wakes up, he meets Morgan and Morgan's son, Dune. They explain to him what happened at the beginning of the outbreak and how most people fled to major cities, such as Atlanta. Rick decides that he must get to Atlanta to find his wife and son, but to do so he needs a vehicle and weapons. So as a result, he goes to his old precinct with Morgan, breaks in, and steals 2 cop cars and a lot of ammunition. This is where Morgan and Rick go their separate ways, Morgan staying in Kentucky and Rick going to Atlanta. On Rick's trip, his car runs completely out of gas, and with no gas stations around, has to go on foot. He finds a horse, however, and rides it the rest of the way. When Rick finally gets to Atlanta, he finds it completely overrun by walkers and nearly loses his life, but this is where he meets fan favorite Glenn Rhee. When they both get out of the city, Rick is talking to Glenn, and Glenn tells Rick how the city was completely overrun and all the inhabitants died. Rick, hearing that his wife and son were probably dead, has a mental breakdown. Glenn decides to take Rick to this group, which is camped a couple miles outside of Atlanta. When they arrive, Rick is astonished to find Carl and Lori, his wife and son, there. But wait, there's more. Rick's old partner from the force, Shane, is also there, and he is the reason why Lori and Carl were able to escape the city. There are other unfamiliar faces at the camp as well, like Dale, Anja and Amy, Jim, Alan and his wife Donna with their twin boys, Carol and her daughter Sophia. Unknown to Rick, a romance between Shane and Lori has grown since his coma. But when Rick turned up, Lori broke this off. Unfortunately, Shane still had feelings for Lori. A few days after Rick's return, him and Glenn decide they must go back into Atlanta to retrieve weapons to be able to properly arm themselves against the zombie hordes. Glenn and him discover that when covered in the walkers' innards, this fools the walkers into thinking that they are one of them. They use this tactic to get downtown to the weapons store. However, it starts to rain, washing off the innards. This led to a tense escape, ending when a walker takes a bite out of Rick's coat, fortunately sparing his life. Back at camp, however, tension's been growing between Rick and Shane. Rick thinks that they should move the camp away from Atlanta because it's too dangerous with all the walkers nearby, while Shane believes that they will be rescued faster when they are located near the cities because the government will be clearing the cities first. One night, while the group was around the fire, they were attacked by a herd of walkers, resulting in Amy and Jim both being bitten. Heartbroken, Amy's sister Anja has to shoot Amy in the head so she won't turn into one of the walkers. Jim's condition worsened, and it got to a point where he said that they must leave him behind. So they left him by Atlanta, and as they left, he said he can finally be with his family, who died when he escaped Atlanta. The next day, Rick tells Shane that they need to talk, and Shane flips out, punching Rick, and storming into the woods. Rick follows him, and when he finally finds him, Shane tells Rick with tears in his eyes that he has to kill him so that he can be with Lori. Right before Shane kills Rick, a bullet flies through his neck, killing him. The scene cuts to Carl with a smoking gun in his hands. The first book ends here, with Rick telling Carl that it should never be as easy to kill people as it is to kill the walkers. This moment really shows how much people can be changed by the world that they live in, and The Walking Dead delves into this a lot in their later issues. But that's for a later episode. This has been Book Summary with Will Van Sant. Now, back to our anchors.